You are down with.
Yo, Dave.
What up?
Drop the beat.
We like it old school. You know how we do this.
What you listening to?
The brothers from the 818.
91331.
Pacoima, California.
What's up, Dave?
What's up, Caleb?
The real, the raw, the relevant.
No script.
We invite you into our conversation. What's going on, people?
Let me just say this.
Thank you for joining us tonight.
You are down with.
The brothers from the 818.
Part 5. We are back on the brothers from the 818. My name is Dave, as you know, kicking it with my man Caleb. Caleb, what's going on with you?
It's good, man. It's good, man. My wife is back from a celebrating her 40th, and so I got some help around the house. You know, things are good now, man. What's up with you?
Man, all is good. Tell your wife, one, I'm jealous, right? And two, she's selfish, man. How's she gonna just bounce on you for the 40th and go celebrate without you?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna do that for my 50th, so you know, it's gonna work out. It's gonna work.
Don't tell her I'm gonna be there, because I need to be able to hold this weight on it. So you know, it's all good. It's all good. No, man, it's good. I got no complaints at the moment. I'm greenlit for my dissertation, at least to move forward. I've been putting in work, and now I'm ready to go and do that. It's called a proposal defense. This is when you go before your committee and you say, hey, this is everything I want to get done, and prove to them that you have a plan to do it. They give you the green light. You go ahead and get approval. You put in the work. The next time I come back to them will be when it's all done, and then I'll meet with that committee, perhaps a different committee, and then they'll put that DR in the front of my title. Damani, know I've been rocking that DR for a long time anyway, but this time it'll be official. I'll have some paperwork. So that's what's up, man. It feels good the last 2 nights to honestly say I have no homework. And
well, let me say this, man. Let me say this to you before you go on. I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud of you.
Appreciate that.
That's it. You know, I'm a man of few words, man. I'm proud of you. That's it. Let's move on. Good job.
Yeah, man. I'll just say this. For anybody who's considering doing it, just remember that this ain't grade school. You're not forced to go. And if it gets tight, remember, you signed up for this voluntarily, and you're paying for it. So knuckle up, get it done, and so they keep your eyes based on the prize, and then everything will work out. That's my advice for anybody who wants to take it. But we're not here for that, man. We are recording part 5, like I said, and it's been a very interesting, amazing, direct, controversial. I can keep going on with the adjectives. Each of the parts that we've been recording have been getting a lot of comments. I want to talk about one of those comments real quick before we introduce our guest. Our comment was powerful, man. It was deep and direct. But then I remembered YouTube's owned by Google, right? Hopefully they don't block this episode because of what I'm about to say. But YouTube's owned by Google, and Google has the Google algorithm. And what I read looks like hate speech to an algorithm.
Okay.
Right? And if you read it, I'm happy to share it with the team so you guys can see it. It's not a big deal. It is a big deal, but you'll never see it on YouTube because the words she was using and the impact of what she was saying, again, from an algorithm standpoint, looks like hate speech. And I was like, that's why it's blocked. I was like, I appreciate what you're saying. I'm not censoring you, but you either rewrite it to something a little more calm. She's like, I say what I wanted to say. Cool, because I thought it was deep. And it was, and I'm happy to share it with you guys, but it was basically her views on a lot of the stuff that we were talking about and how she feels. And honestly, for her and anybody else, and maybe you guys and in your own marketplaces, these are the conversations that I'm hoping are going on. I'm hoping that this conversation doesn't allow you to go back to wherever you are to just have people nodding their head at you saying, I agree. I'm hoping that you use it as either courage, energy, fulfilled desire to go and have these deeper conversations anywhere where you happen to be, and definitely not shy away from these talks, because these are the things we got to do. So I just wanted to say that, and we can talk about it a little deeper if you want, but you got anything to add before we bring our guests back?
Yeah. What I got to add is we're going to have a conversation about that cancel culture and that censoring, because I think that we've gone a little too far about on both of those ends, right? People need to be able to voice their concerns, even if it's a little strong. And what I read wasn't, I wouldn't interpret it as hate speech, but the censoring has gone a little too far, and we need to have a conversation on that with the brothers from the 818. Let's get to our episode, brother.
Let's get to our episode. So tonight we are back with our three amazing panelists. Normally we would call them guests, but this has been a town hall session for police reform. Like I said, this is part 5. Our three amazing panelists, and we got them back. We have Officer Mike. As I said, he's a officer of 17 years with a major metropolitan police division on the West Coast. And has been very direct and forthcoming and honest with his viewpoints and so forth, and has created some great conversation. We have Zach. Zach is from Chi-Town. I keep saying that. I love Chi-Town. But reared in the Orange County area, 714. And other than the time he went to college, he's born and bred right here, and he makes his living today in the educational system, and has offered a very unique perspective on what we're discussing. And we have Damani with his Black Panther Party shirt on, way to represent. And he's brought some very deep, detailed conversations. He sent me to Google on a couple times to say, really? Is that like that? But Damani hails from the Bay Area, Oakland, California, born and bred, but now makes his home in the Midwest with his family. So, gentlemen, welcome back to the Brothers from the 818. Thank you for sticking with us. And how you doing tonight?
Doing all right, Dave.
Doing great.
Now, before we jump too deep into it, I always, let's just do this. We're going to pause for the cause. I'm not pausing the recording, but whatever, pause for the cause. I always introduce you. And so I've been doing interviews on a professional level. I've been on stage, media, that type of thing, center stage my entire life. And, one of the questions I've learned to ask people as, I do an interview or I have an opportunity to spend some time with them, I finish the interview with this. Hey, is there anything you wish I had asked or something you would like to say on your behalf for why you're here? And so we're not done, but I kind of want to start with that. You guys have heard me introduce you a number of times. Mike, we'll start with you. Is there anything I've left out, anything you want to say about who you are? And we want to get into the issue of the discussion at this point. But, I always introduce you as a police officer, 17 years experience, and so forth and so on. And a person told me that as soon as who you are becomes what you do, you lose sight of why you're here. And so I always introduce you guys according to what you do. But I'm more interested in who you are. Is there anything, Mike, you want to say about who you are before we jump into this?
Yeah, and you mentioned it week 1, I'm also a father, I'm also a husband, and I think that says a lot. I think we can say that, but we don't really acknowledge that sometimes. I think a lot of, especially with my occupation, you're just a badge. We're not, I'm more than that. That's just a job for me. And I really do try to leave it all at work. But I think sometimes we get lumped into this, they all think alike, they all act alike, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I think we're all human beings, and I think whenever we see a dead body. It's, I don't want to think, I don't want you guys to think we're all police officers, we're cold and callous and we just think of it as another dead body. We acknowledge the fact that that is a son, that is a father. And I don't think that's necessarily conveyed enough. So I just want to say that, we're all human beings, and not just an occupation.
I appreciate those words. Thank you, Mike. And I feel that, and I did mention that episode 1 purposely, that you are a father. I mentioned that you were in education, that, you're a family man. And you mentioned leaving it all at work. Man, I just found out you got like a very long commute. That's easy to do. You got lots of time to debrief while you're on the road.
I don't mind the drive. I despise traffic. I think there's something peaceful about a long drive after a day to just tune out. But
Right.
traffic is something else. After a long day and then you got traffic, that's a recipe for disaster. So
I agree. I couldn't agree with you more. Love a long, good drive. Give me a midnight drive to Oakland. Man, I could just get out there and drive the speed limit. Something high. And just enjoy the ride. I remember Caleb and I, when we were younger, it was like, I'll never drive a car that's not a stick. And I still have a stick. One of my cars is a stick. And to drive that thing in traffic is just agonizing. I just can't do it. It's just, man. Anyway, thank you for sharing that, Mike. That's very humanizing, and I appreciate that. Zach, what do you want folks to know about you?
Well, interesting question. At the end of the day, similar to Mike, I'm a father first, a husband, and not only that, I want people to know that I am deeply, deeply immersed, I guess, in God, and I believe in God as my Lord and Savior. I am an individual that is blessed beyond anyone could imagine, and I put my faith. I live my life through faith, and my family as well. So everything that I do is guided by God, and my family share those same values, the same sentiments. And with that being said, if at the end of the day, if you know anything about me, is I'm on this journey to continue to learn, and I'm a firm believer that the minute you stop learning, you might as well just call it a wrap. I grew up with a grandfather who was a chancellor, first African-American chancellor at UCLA, left Mississippi way back in, I don't know, we'll call it 1905. I'm joking, but nevertheless, and the man is 93 years old and he's a lifelong learner. And we talk on a regular. And it amazes me how this journey is, what his journey was and what continues to be, and how that is represented within my family and our overall family. So when you look at that, guided by God in itself, and all those different, principles that go along with that, the different characteristics, as just a family man and lifelong learner, I think that's the most important thing. So when you look at me and you wonder about me, just know that he's never going to stop learning, and he's open, right? Open to hear, open to listen, and his heart is guided by God. So I don't fear anything, and I know that as long as I'm listening and I have an open heart and I put my faith in him, that I got no problems. So that for me is something everybody should know.
Wow. One, I want an introduction. I don't know if your grandfather's spry, and I'm not joking either, but I want an introduction, and it would be wonderful to have him on the show. But forget the show for a moment. I would just love an introduction to find a 93-year-old educator out of Mississippi that was the first Black chancellor of UCLA, especially looking at where I am, my career path, and what I'm trying to do. That would be an education that'd be 6 semesters and a half-hour conversation with me just sitting at his feet. So we're going to talk about that. If there's any way possible to get an introduction, even via Zoom or whatever it is, I would honor that for the rest of my days. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I met Brother Zach in the barbershop. I don't know if you guys know that. And we were looking at each other like, man, I know you, right? And because I had seen pictures of him and his wife and his kids and didn't put the two together. And he had seen the podcast and didn't put that together. He's like, where are you from? Where are you from? You know, we're going back and forth. And I'm from Chicago, too. We know each other from Chicago. I'm like, man, look, people run around. We both bald-head black men. We didn't cross paths somewhere. And I happened to mention some students at a school. He's like, you know, they're my kids. Oh, that's how I know you. Okay, all right, cool. So I'm glad that we're having this extra time to get to know each other, Zach. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Damani, you know, I could write books on you and have. I'm just waiting on something to happen so I can get paid. But what do you want people to know about you?
Well, I, as well as a husband and a father, I am a reflection of my strong belief in my people that I want us to live. In that reflection, I am the warrior class of my people. And being a warrior is not being a tough guy, not bullying anyone, but there comes a time where you have to stand up. And as a warrior, you know your life is not of your own. You willingly give it for your people. And I am that man. I am not in any shape, form, or fashion pattern myself to be a safe Negro. I am not. I am intellectual. I am financially stable. I am politically aware. I am studied. I may not have a PhD, but I can see pattern recognition. I can see movements in certain things that bring me into protection mode of my people. And with that being said, throughout my travels, throughout my career paths, throughout my engagements as a student, as a community activist, as a person who's challenged different forms of authority, be it at the city level, be it at the state level, be it politics on the streets, if you will. I know that people follow me. And right now, people are following Black people as a collective, not because we are leaders, it's because we are the target. And if you don't think so, you could just go back. You don't have to go back in ancient history. We could just go back from 2 months. How many laws have been enacted to stop Black people from voting? They'll mask it and like, oh yeah, we want to change these laws. We're doing this. We don't want these restrictions. No, it's because you tipped the scale. Not all Democrats. We are the target. And we don't acknowledge that. And as a people, sport, football is 70% African American. If you close your eyes, all of us, if we close our eyes, and football was 70% Jewish, and the president called them SOBs on national TV, what would they have done? It wouldn't have been a fight. It wouldn't have been a riot. Nobody been marching. They all would have walked off the field. This how you think of us as a people? We done. The hot dog dude would have left. The dude who draw the lines would have left. Let alone Kaepernick and everybody else took a knee, would have left. And those who are high-paid athletes, they went to those rookies that just got drafted, said, I'm sorry you joined. You got into the league at a bad time, but it's bigger than us. We're done. Now flip that around, and Black people, we didn't do that. Ray Lewis, I'm taking 2 knees for Jesus. Some people, I just signed my contract. I don't know if I want to do that. We still went back to the game. They came on national TV and said that we were concerned about our season ticket holders. They were talking about the white ones, not as if black people don't have season tickets. So I have a different perspective in certain things, and I want people to know that about me, that I'm passionate about our survival. And with that, I know we're not going to save everyone. Our topic of our panel, we're not going to save anyone. Some of us are going to get lost on both sides. There's going to be, that bubble is getting pushed. There's going to start being some retaliation against police officers in these areas. We're going to lose some of them if we haven't already. Then we're going to lose some of these people, whether they're committing crimes or not. We know that. But are we serious in our approach? In our attempt to breach the gap with each other, both law enforcement and our communities, and how we as individuals carry ourselves. Are we serious about that from a survival standpoint? Okay, that's what I wanted to share. Hey,
let me just say, before we get into the rest of our podcast, it's been a pleasure. It really has been a pleasure just sitting back and listening. And if you watch enough of the brothers from the 818, you know, I'm the quiet one. I want to sit back. I want to have some fun. I want to crack some jokes. David is the intellectual. David is the guy that's looking for that DR in front of his name, behind his name. We've been going on for a couple weeks, and I really do appreciate your time, your perspective, being your honesty, being vulnerable, and just sharing with a piece of yourself. I mean, each and every one of you talked about your family and your upbringing and your careers, and gave us so much to not just David and I, but also to any of our subscribers and any of the fans of the brothers from the 818. And I just want to say thank you. Really appreciate you giving us your time.
Wow. That's powerful. I echo that, Caleb. I think it takes a lot of boldness, a lot of bravery, a lot of dedication to keep coming back. Caleb and I have made a promise to one another, as well as our viewers, that we'll be here every week. And you know, we struggle sometimes to make it happen, but it is our duty to make sure we do that. You guys have been here with us during this time, so that's not to be taken lightly. Or looked at any bad way. And there's some brothers from the 818 swag in it for each of you. But in truth, we more than anything appreciate where you guys are coming from. And this was intentional. I didn't know what you were going to say. I appreciate the insight from each of you. But, you know, we have to figure out a way to take everything that we've done thus far and so what's next, right? And we talked about that. And, you know, for me, I have some plans. I want to make some phone calls. I want to sit in on some meetings. I want to offer some perspective. And it's not just with the police force. I wrote a very intense email to my pastor at my church because I love his message. I love his word. I love what he's doing. But as I look around, I don't see anybody that looks like me. And that's a choice. There's lots of places I can go that have more diversity. I happen to go to a church right smack dab in the middle of Orange County. So I know what the demographics I am to expect. But I oftentimes hear the message that doesn't really reflect not only anyone that looks like me, but anyone who's not affluent. Right? And I'm in the school system. I see broke people everywhere of all different shades and so forth and so on. I'm not talking about just black folks, but how do I involve myself in that conversation? And that stemmed from this podcast. And more importantly, these last series that we've been doing. You know, I know different entities from communities around Orange County and their police forces. I've been reaching out to people who's given me their card and say, hey, I just want to meet for lunch and have a talk. Right. And wherever that talk goes, we'll see where it takes me. One of the things that Mike said last time, if you have a conversation with a bunch of police captains, you're going to be talking to politicians. I can feel that. I don't want to necessarily talk to politicians, but if they're going to give me a sense of at least a soundbite, something that I cannot bring to the show, but make sure I can now speak that word, or maybe that'll offer me an invite to another meeting that maybe won't be sound bites, but that they'll give me a seat at the table. That's what I'm doing. And more. That's just a start. I'm not getting my doctorate so I can have a fancy DR in front of my name. That'd be great. That's cool. But, you know, that's fluff. I'm getting it for the doors that will open, the access it will provide me, and the change I can make that not only affects my children, but theirs, more importantly, theirs.
I'm smirking over here, man. I'm smirking over here because I've known you for a long time, and my natural response to that is, how about the money? How about
that too? That's nice too. But you know, but even the money, we Caleb, you and I have made money, right? You chase dollars, that's all you'll ever get, and you can get it. For people to sit around, I don't know how to make money, I'm broke. I don't know what's going on, and I'm talking even legal methods. You can always get paid, right? I've ran a hustle my entire life, and a hustle isn't necessarily illegal. It's just something you do on the side that's going to get you some extra funds, right? And so, and you got to pay taxes on it. Pay your taxes, right? Let me just say that. But the point is, if you're chasing dollars, you can make dollars, right? But if you want a purpose, you got to have a plan, right? And you could die with a whole lot of money, and somebody's going to spend it. One day you'll be forgotten. But if you have a plan, then you can leave a legacy that will last a lot longer than you can imagine, and a lot longer than your generations can't ruin your plan. They can ruin your money. So as we dive into this, you know, tonight, I really want us to be mindful about where we're going. Mike, I like how you opened about, you know, hey, I try to leave that there, and I'm not just a badge. Zach, you touched my heart because I don't say it enough, but anyone who knows me know where I stand. But I'm a full-time lot of things, but I'm a first full-time man of God. I honor God, his son, Jesus Christ. I know that without him, I'd be nothing. And I try to honor him in everything that I do, including this podcast, right? And then being a dad is my favorite job of all time, and I don't get paid for it, not in a financial sense. But anybody, and we all have children here, so I don't, you know, all you can do is nod your head, be like, yeah, the rewards, even on the days you don't like them, because anybody who says they like their children every day is a politician. They lying. But even on the days you don't like them, you love them and you wish the best for them. I remember telling my oldest son once, he was like, I know you don't like this plan I'm doing and you're looking forward to me failing. I was like, man, you got that twisted. I am never interested in your failure. I'm always looking forward to your success. Now, some things in life you need to fail at, because failing means falling, and falling means getting up, and you need to learn how to get up. But I'm never wishing something to not work for your benefit. You can go do whatever it is. It could be against any plan I have for you, and I want it to work for your benefit because I'm interested in your success. And that's just fatherhood. But I got that from God because he's interested in that for us, right? And so we can go on about that subject forever. Damani, you know, got deep on us as you do, but I think you wrapped it up with that's who I am. I'm willing to be the sacrifice for my people. A lot of people say what you say, and it stops at their family. You're saying that for your people. And that's revolutionary minded. And it's revolutionary in 2021 because most people are too selfish to take it that far. We used to laugh, if you remember, we had a prayer. God bless me, my wife, my brother John, his wife. Us foe, no more. Amen.
No more.
Right? And that just came from, you know, it's a selfish mindset of us doing what we need to do. And Caleb, you know I love you, man. And that's that appreciation you showed and me knowing you and what we do and how we do it. Ain't nothing changing. And I'm just glad that if I got to be on this journey for everything we talked about, that I'm here with you while we do.
Thank you, brother.
So let's get into it. And we've talked about a lot of different things. We've touched on a lot of different areas tonight. And all that was a tee up. Anybody understands golf? You know, I just took a little tee and I put it in. I lined it up just perfect and got on my knickerbockers and, you know, whatever. But I want to talk about humanity. right? And Mike, you said something to it about recognizing the that I am a father, I am a husband, I am these things. I'm not just a badge. Damani or Zach mentioned about the I wrote it down. Bridging the gap between our communities and the policing in these communities, right? That's a call for, I see the problem. I'm here, you're over there. No matter how we come together, no matter how, we play basketball or have a community event or have a talk or have a podcast or have whatever, when the bomb drops, you're going to look up and there's going to be police on this side, enforcement, and there's going to be people over here. And we retreat to our positions as if we're chess pieces, playing our spot, playing our role. And the question on the table is if that we're going to embrace our humanity, and Caleb and I have talked about this on a few podcasts before, if we're going to embrace who we are as humans. I'm not a good man, I'm a good human. I'm not a good father, I'm a good human. That is not a good person, that's a good human. If you're going to embrace your humanity, how do we use that humanity to bridge this gap between us? I think if there's anything that we can all agree with, it's that from listening to and participating in this podcast over the last 4 and now 5 episodes, we have a break in our understanding and perspective of one another's humanity in 2021 with individuals who are bold enough to come on these podcasts. We're not even talking about general public. We're talking about the 5 of us. There's a break in our humanity. And how do we bring that together? How do we bridge that? How do we move forward? I know that's broad, but that's what's on my mind. So, Zach, let's start with you. I think we started with Mike one night. We started with Damani another night. I think we started with you night 1, Zach. And let's jump in with you again. And you can start there. You can take it wherever you need to. But let's talk about humanity and how we bridge that gap between enforcement and community.
Yeah, it's an interesting take. You can come from all different angles, but I try to keep everything as simple as can be, right? And when you think of humanity, it's got so many intricacies. How people feel, right? Their thought process, all kinds of different things. I think of one simple take, right? And it goes back to that golden rule, right? People say, treat others how you want to be treated, so to speak, right? It seems pretty basic, but is that going to happen all the time? Absolutely not. So when I start thinking about humanity and everybody, how I look at it is, what is the commonality, or what are things that we have in common, right? Simple things like, are there things that we do have in common, right? From the next man, whether it's you're talking about regular individuals in the street, regular people, your everyday people versus officers versus teachers versus whomever it be, right? What is it that we all have in common, right? And it's very interesting, right? We started with Mike, and we went to myself and Damani and Caleb and Dave, all of us, right? We're all fathers, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We all care much about our families, right? And we have beliefs, right? We have a belief system. And it seems somewhat simple, right? But I think to start that question, to bear that, figuring out those commonalities, right? Or what we have in common, and then work from there. Because if you can't even begin to see, you can't even begin to empathize with anybody, or even be able to have that conversation, I believe, without seeing something or having something in common with somebody else. Now, people are genuine, excuse me, let me rephrase that. Genuine, being genuine about that, right? We could talk about it, we could say it, and humanity, right? You would think people would say, oh yeah, this is going on or that's going on, and whatever it may be. But if we don't have anything common, or we don't find any commonalities between us, right? Any type of conversation we have, any direction we may be going in, or whatever it is, it's either skewed, it's either fake, it's either phony, it's no good. So when you ask me about just humanity in itself, right? The basic thing that I look at is, what do we have in common? Because from there, at least we have a starting point to work from. Now, you may disagree, right? You may disagree. You may look at other things, right? I believe, right, and as I'm thinking now, and maybe it will be different as I continue to have other conversations as we go, but commonalities, right, or that one thing in common, that allows for the conversation to continue. That allows for the spark to kick, so to speak. Because if we don't have that, then I believe that you have a whole bunch of unauthentic conversations. So just to start to find that simple commonality, it will set a spark, so to speak, to kind of find that humanity in different individuals. Now, does it happen all the time? No. But once again, here we are talking about this stuff, and that's the problem. It starts there. And when we're talking about policing, and we're talking about community, and we're talking about all these things, it's hard to even begin to hear anybody, to listen to anybody, to relate to anybody, if you don't know where they're coming from, if you don't have the ability to even to potentially have empathy, right? And I say potentially have these things because we don't know. But in order to keep the conversation going, in order to set that spark, I definitely believe that we need to have some type of commonalities or something that's going to help us get it started. From there, it could go in all different directions. But if we don't have that, we don't have that ear of those individuals. We don't have the ear of each other. It's all fake. It's all phony. It doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. It's a bunch of whatever you want to call it. But you got to think, what is it? We could have many starting points, and you think about it. Think about all the different starting points in which these conversations want to have. We say, oh, we want police reform, right? Or police need to be reformed. Absolutely, right? We say, oh, things need to change. Absolutely. I'm coming from a perspective and saying, hey, well, how does this get started? What does this look like? Being an educator, right? And when I look at kids, or when I'm working with my teachers or whomever it is, everybody can say they believe. Everybody can say, oh, they want to do it, right? Everybody can have a plan, all of those things. But you know what? Who is truly there to do the work? And how do you begin to do the work if you're not real about it, or you truly aren't invested in it? And when you think about that investment, and you think about all of those different things, and it doesn't matter how old you are or how young you are. And I always go back from an educator perspective. I work with K through 8th grade. Very simple principles that we use with kids, right? Communication, collaboration, all those things. All those things are possible. This are all things that, right, help us understand a little bit about humanity. But the only way to do it and to be, in my eyes, to be authentic about it is to find some type of commonality between folks, between individuals. Because if you don't get to that point, right, everything else is unauthentic. It's not there. So when you ask me about that, that is a start. That's where I believe that we must start. Now, like I said, everybody could have a different opinion. That's fine. But go ahead and continue to try to work, because I believe that you continue working, right? But you'll be chasing the wheel, right? You'll be spinning the wheel, so to speak, without any real, true progress. Like I said, everybody believes that, hey, you know what, they want to be a part of something at times. Everybody believes that they have an idea, right? Which is good. Ideas are great, but what's ideas without, hey, you know what, the workings behind them? What's an idea without individuals that are willing to take risks? You don't get anywhere in life without taking risks. You're gonna have to take a risk somewhere. You're gonna have to do these things, and it doesn't matter which end of the spectrum you're on in regards to anything. But one thing is for certain, you must figure out what it is, right? That you are you have some interest in with the other side. It's the common denominator, so to speak, right? Because if you don't have that, everything else is good luck. So that's where my headspace is when you first think about that, right? You're talking about humanity. Find it, because if I ask you, hey, what are the differences or whatnot, we can go on for days. Sometimes it's hard to find that as I say, that commonality between folks, or that common denominator, so to speak. But once we find that I believe that's the spark that allows the fire to get burning. And once that fire starts burning, it warms it up. It doesn't just warm it up for one individual, right? If you're around a fire pit, it's warming up for everybody, slowly but surely. And then from there, you do whatever you have to do, whether you're making food on the fire, and I'm using that analogy as a fire now, or whatever it may be, but that is the start that I think that individuals need. So
thank you for that, Zach. Damani, we're talking about humanity, and Zach brought up two pieces, and he used some analogies that I'd really love to hear your opinion on. And Mike, we're coming to you as well. Talks about commonalities, right? So two questions for you. The first about commonalities is, one, what do you think about that? And two, what are those common grounds that you see as a potential launch point for bridging this gap? Second, he talked about making that investment. And so here's my gift, and I'm gonna say it that way because I truly believe it is. I've spent so many years in ministry, so many years teaching. My thing I've always said is, you might not like what I have to say, but you'll never leave my audience not understanding what I said. I'm always coming up with an analogy, and Caleb mentioned, Dave's the intellectual about all this, and I hear things and my mind starts processing. So when you say something like, Zach, make the investment, I think of what's an investment versus a purchase. Purchase is something you go, you spend your money, you get your product, you walk away. Yep. An investment is something you go, you spend your money, you check back on it the next day and see how your money's doing. And you follow it. And you reinvest, or you pull out, you nurture it, you develop it, you try to get it to something that creates an ROI, a return on your investment. So when I hear you talk about investment, I think about it along those lines. This isn't a hit it and quit it. This is, I'm getting in there to make a difference, and so forth. So under those two avenues, Damani, if you can, one, what do you think about the commonality, and what is it? What could it be? And how do we invest in this for the hope of a brighter tomorrow?
The commonality in humanity is that, one, we are all human. That's a general obvious distinction. But humanity as a collective, just like what's the Jurassic period, the dinosaurs roamed the planet a millennia, millions of years, then all of a sudden they were no more. Humanity as a collective is secular in that form. Because of our intellectualism and things we discover and manipulate in our environment, our timeline might get cut short. We may either find a solution to extend our lives. We already know we have the power to end all of human life right now. Humanity with that movement in commonality that we are human beings and we should be here collectively to sustain ourselves on this planet that we didn't build. This planet was here long before us. And it's going to be here long after us unless we come up with some way to destroy it. That's the commonality. What has created this schism, if you will, in what humanity is the us against them. We as Americans, if we follow the story of the Pilgrims and the Native Americans, the reason why we celebrate Thanksgiving. The Native Americans observed them, from the woods and the wilderness, and they're starving to death. They don't even know how to eat. We'll watch them for a while, they talk a little different, they look a little different. But they found humanity, said, I'm going to go over there, we're going to show them how to eat. They look like their people are dying, they look a little hungry, let's show them how to eat off the land. Let's show them how to, get it in. Now, again, they couldn't speak their language, they didn't know them, not to my knowledge, or anyone else's knowledge for that matter, we weren't there, but that glimmer of humanity led to them saying, okay, now we can sustain ourselves, now we can eat, now it's us against them. And these same one group of people wiped out this other group of people that showed their humanity to them. In the very beginnings of our country, we the 13 colonies, we all were colonialists. Regardless of race, religion, color, if you made it here, you was a colonialist, and we served under the crown, under the British crown. The revolution, the American Revolution, that I'm a red-blooded American, I'm a blue-blooded American. A black man by the name of Crispus Attucks got killed by the redcoats that started that very shot, that very revolution. But someone in this colonialness said us against them, not in colonial America versus England, but they had a plan that they was going to build this more perfect union. They was going to build this constitutional bound nation of people who look like Crispus Attucks. Was not going to be a part of that. Was not going to have equal footing in that. That was a humanity. That was a schism in that humanity. And that schism led to slavery, led to your children being sold, your feet being cut off if you tried to run away, lynchings. The slave masters had kids, biological kids that was running around, but they went home to their wife, and then they slept with other women out in the field, and the kids running around, and the woman was upset because these brown and beige kids was running around, but what was the humanity? And denied them freedom for a couple of hundred years. Then when they said, okay, these are things that are wrong, and they had laws that stopped, what made it illegal for you to read, made it illegal for you to do basic things in a normal society. The humanity had a schism. That schism has led us to where we are right now. Humanity, from my perspective, regardless of color, race, religion, it's broken in many facets because of this initial us against them. Right now, we have human beings who are of the human race. They don't even want to reproduce other humans. We got people who are born in this life that God ordained you to be a man or to be a woman. That decision was made long before you took your first breath. But they could just wave a wand and I'm a woman now. we're humanity is morphing into these other things. We live in a supposed rich society with hundreds of thousands of human beings that sleep under a freeway, live up under a tree. We invade foreign countries to nourish our own country, either coltan for the cell phones, oil, gold, silver, anything else. But human beings are died and dispersed from that. There was the movie that came out, Blood Diamond. That was something in the 90s. It just blew everybody away. Like, what? People die? Bring it. But people who've been trading in diamonds for years are like, yeah, this is where you think these diamonds came from. And the secret got out. Diamonds are not even rare. Have you ever went to a mall anywhere in America? No, yeah, out of diamonds. Diamonds are not even rare. But humans have died for that. Humans have died for rights to live. Humans have died because I just feel like I'm in suicide. You know how high suicide rate has been under this COVID-19? So humanity, it's making a cycle. Then it has hope. If we have some kids, it's like, hey, we're doing something new. We're taking it to a whole nother level. Technology comes out like, whoa. I wish we'd have thought of that back in our day. So there's some hope that humanity will continue. Well, I watched on TV the other day, Elon Musk sent a rocket into space. It came back. The other parts landed by itself. I was like, whoa, that's amazing. Are we getting somewhere? Is humanity going to be there? Then we got look television, riots over here, floods over here. Have you seen the COVID outbreak in India? Man, they got crematoriums all down the street. I'm on TV like, what? And Dave, you know, I have an IT wing in my corporation I work with, and they hire mostly Indian people. They're really skilled. A lot of them are traumatized. But me coming from a traumatized race as well, I see their pain. Hey, man, you all right? They straighten up. No, they people is dying. We didn't even as a collective even concerned by how it affected us as Americans. Because in our minds, somebody gonna come up with a solution. It's gonna get fixed. And again, I live in the Midwest. You know, it was almost a sin to tell people to wear a mask out here. Trump said we ain't wearing masks, we ain't wearing the mask. It was crass, like, dude, you don't see these people dying? So again, humanity is broken. If we're gonna find a way, a solution going forward, we gotta patch humanity up. We got people starving for no reason. We got people on drugs that we can't even imagine 15 years ago. They got stuff that's wiping Florida out, some craziness, Waka. Just have people vibrating on the ground. I was like, man, crack never did that. The heroin is horrible, but man, what is that? Somebody created that. Somebody did a chemical compound, ran that together, and put it on a human population. Humanity is broken.
Wow.
Oh, Dave, before you go, let me say, man, you touched a lot of things in your response. You talked about the military, and I'm retired member of the military, invading countries for their resources. You talked about our government funding and financing, and you know, we're in other countries, and we'll spend, I don't know, $20 million on one rocket, right?
Right.
And but we take issues when we spend, I don't know, that kind of money to address some of our infrastructure or or issues within our community. You talked about the blood diamonds and a little bit on LGBTQ stuff, right? But suicide during COVID, and what really struck me to actually start taking some notes was our homeless population, and it bothers me because anytime you get in your car and you drive anywhere, you're going to see someone that's homeless. If you go maybe 30 miles, you're going to see somebody that's homeless. And the drug issue in our country, and you're saying that all of these things are eroding our humanity. You know, you said that this new drug, crack didn't do that. Crack only had you running in, you breaking into your mama's house and stealing your television and VCR, right? And so, right.
You got people going crazy literally on the street.
Right. And so, when I look at this country that I love, I don't know how to fix it, and it sounds as if you're uncertain too, because you identified a lot of the issues, but didn't have any solution except that we need to fix humanity.
Right. We need to fix humanity first.
Yeah.
Not us, and then
the things that are eroding our humanity.
Right. Because there's laws that come into play to fix you, but then the larger society is okay. If you follow my drift.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to take a break right there. This is Dave from the Brothers from the 818. And to hear the rest, you're going to have to come back next week. Caleb, what's up?
Oh, man. Next week is going to be incredible. We're going to wrap it up as we continue this discussion on police reform. Check us out.
Don't miss part 6 on the Brothers from the 818. Peace out.
Peace.
You are down with
The Brothers from the